What up, my problem children? I'm back this week with another one, and today I'll be covering FTT 100 Assignment 6. I will be field stripping my M4 Ruger chambered in 5.56 and 2.23. I hope y'all are enjoying this content so far, and if y'all are, please do me a huge favor. Smack that subscribe button, hit that like button, and leave me some comments down below. Let me know how I'm doing. If y'all are really liking this content, do me a huge favor. Share it with all your family and friends. Please have a blessed day. Sit back and enjoy the class. My name is Daniel Clark, and today on April 23rd, I will be conducting FTT 100 Assignment 6. I will be field stripping my M4 Ruger chambered in 2.23 and 5.56. As for my safety and those around me, I want to keep my weapon in the shot and my hands on the weapon at all times. I'm going to bend my ring light down with my hands in the shot. Let me make sure y'all are straight. I don't want to give y'all scoliosis trying to watch my videos. Let's see what we got here. There we go. That looks pretty straight. Alright. So here we have my Ruger M4 chambered at 5.56 and 2.23. You have two different receivers. You have an upper receiver and you have a lower receiver. On your lower receiver, you have your pistol grip, your trigger cover, also known as your trigger guard. You have your trigger, you have your magazine weld, and then next to your magazine weld is your magazine catch button. This releases your magazine, allowing you to swap magazines or drop magazine in case of emergency. This right here on your upper receiver is your dust cover. Behind your dust cover sits your two takedown pins. This will come in handy later when I field strip the weapon. Next to there is your selector switch. This is not the side you selected on. If I wanted to, I could take this weapon and make it left-handed for that selector switch. But you do have a fire and a safe stamp on this side. On your upper receiver, you have your brass deflector, your chamber, and your bolt carrier assembly, which is currently charged to the rear. I did that by using the charging handle, which sits below the rear sight post. Below the charging handle sits your forward assist. You ever heard that saying, tap his forward assist, he keeps messing up, you know? It goes on in the military. It's a big thing in the military. Well, it came from the military, but it also came from tapping the forward assist. This can clear most of your jams, but if you're having bigger issues, I recommend you drop your magazine, pull your charging handle, put it on safe, pull your charging handle back, and take it to somebody that can fix it if you're not able to fix the situation yourself. Anyways, moving on. Behind your forward assist, you have your receiver and plate. Then you have your buffer spring tube. Behind your buffer spring tube sits your buttstock. I'm going to move you back forward. Here is your delta ring. Your delta ring holds on your handguard. Your handguard, behind there sits this little metal tube right here. I don't know if y'all can see that, but there's a little metal tube. That little metal tube is your gas tube assembly. Then you have your front sight post. On your front sight post, you have your gas block. This is your standard size barrel with a flash suppressor on the front. Alright, now I'm going to get into field stripping this weapon. Remember the two pins I mentioned earlier that were important when it comes to this? Well, let me flip it over real quick. Them takedown pins also continue all the way through the rifle. And what they do is help hold your upper and lower receiver together. But before you do this, you want to make sure you use your bolt catch. You want to drop that forward to make sure your bolt is locked in the chamber. I like to make sure my firing pin is forward, so I take it from safe to fire, and boom, the firing pin is forward. Now I'm going to go to my takedown pins. I like to get my handy dandy penetrator round for the 308. This is your green tip. I'm going to take this tool, kind of hit the back of those takedown pins. They're going to pop out about halfway on the other side. You see that? Yep, I'm about halfway out on that side. And look, now your bolt carrier assembly is forward. This will make it easier taking the weapon apart. I'm going to close the dust cover. This separates your upper and lower receiver. I'm going to start with the lower receiver as it has, well, not has less parts, but less to explain. So this right here is going to be your hammer assembly. Below your hammer assembly sits your disconnector. So you're going to want to make sure your hammer assembly is down. And then back here sits your buffer spring. Remember that buffer tube I mentioned on the back? Well, there's your buffer spring. Right there sits a little pin. In order to take this buffer spring out, what you're going to want to do, what I like to do to save my fingers, is I come back over to my upper receiver. I pull out my bolt carrier assembly by pulling the charging handle back, which releases your bolt carrier assembly. I swap back over to my lower receiver. I use my charging handle as a tool, and I'll take that and hit that little button I showed you. And out pops your buffer spring and your buffer. This gives you easy access to clean each part. This right here is technically a field strip weapon, but I will go into a little further. I'm going to move those to the side, and I'm going to take off the delta ring so I can show you how this weapon works. There's that little gas tube assembly I mentioned earlier that the handguard protects. You flip it over, you can see it runs into your chamber. That's where this sits. Your bolt sits in that, and that's where the gas is expelled. Now you have your bolt carrier assembly. Another field strip, you need to take this little cotter pin out right here. You see this? This is important. You don't want to lose this because this holds your whole bolt together. You want to take that little cotter pin out, outside your firing pin. You're going to push your bolt back to the rear. You're going to turn this little bolt cam pin sideways, and then you're going to pop it out. This releases your bolt. So, this is where your gas tube sits. This is your bolt right here. This right here is your ejector. There's a little cotter pin right there I could take out, and it would reveal a ejector buffer spring, ejector spring, and an ejector O-ring. I'm not going to take that out as this is just a basic breakdown. Now, to reassemble the weapon. You're going to want to take your bolt carrier assembly. You're going to want to put your bolt back into the weapon. Take your firing pin, drop it into the bolt. Well, maybe. There you go. Ringed it. Then you're going to take your bolt cam pin. Oh, shoot. Yep, nope. My fault. You're going to want to take your bolt cam pin, put that back in first. There's two holes in your bolt. If it don't go in the first one, it'll go in the second one. So you can't really mess it up. It's going to go in sideways. You're going to want to take that and rotate it. Yep, that way. You see? So after you get it rotated that way, you take your firing pin, you drop that back into that bolt, just like that. Just like that. And you're going to take this little cotter pin, which can be a pain in the neck sometimes, and you put that little cotter pin back in the hole where it needs to go, and this allows your bolt to rotate forward. So then you're going to take this, you're going to drop your charging handle back into your wet upper receiver. After you get done doing that, you're going to take your bolt assembly carrier. Well, make sure your bolt's out. And you're going to slide your bolt right back into the holder. As you do that, you're going to want to take your lower receiver, take your buffer spring and your buffer, put those back together, slide it back into your buffer spring tube, just like that right there. It has no certain way it's got to go in, but it just pushes back in. Then you're going to take this upper receiver and put your handguard back on. You want to make sure it's lined up properly. And it goes on just like that. And then you take your delta ring and you tighten it back down. That puts your handguard back on. Then you take your lower receiver, and you remember the two takedown pins I told you about earlier? And you put that one back on. And then you take your bolt, your lower receiver, close it back up with the upper receiver, take that last takedown pin, give it a nice little tap, tap, tap-a-roo, and your weapon's back together. You can field test your weapon by pulling the charging handle back, put it on fire, and listen for the metallic click. This is how you field strip your weapon, assemble, disassemble, and reassemble my rifle. My Ruger AR-15 chambered in 5.56 .223. I hope y'all enjoyed this. Y'all have a blessed day. And thank you for watching.